DPL surveillance equipment. I'm doing, believe it or not, some more morning chores. They never end. So looks like we just got to get used to the idea that for the most part, I'm going to be always doing morning chores or recording this podcast. And we're going to be reviewing. I got a sneeze coming out. Hold on. Excuse me. Thanks. We always have to review, as I mentioned before, what's going on in the financial markets. In this case, what's going on in the financial markets as it pertains to social media. But we'll get to that in a minute. But it doesn't hurt to, in the morning for us business owners, at least for myself, I want to know what's going on, what's really happening with the movers and the shakers in the markets, and what could potentially impact the way I spend money, the decisions that I make for my company, for myself personally, or my family rather, and all those things have to be viewed in the proper context. So that's what I suggest for most business owners. There's been numerous stories about business people, the famous and the wealthy people rather. They get up, and the first thing in the morning is they review 2 or 3, 4 newspapers. They want to look at what's happening in the business section and the international financial markets. They want to know what's going on with the economy overall. All these things ultimately matter in terms of you making a good decision or a bad decision. So we don't want to take for granted what it means to get a handle on what's going on currently and over the short and the medium long term as well when you're making these decisions. So you may ask, who is this guy going on and on and on talking about these things? Well, my name is Monty Henry, owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment. Excuse the noise. Owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment. We're a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. 24/7, 365 tech, sales, and customer support. The largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent or lay away as well. And we have a huge articles directory and a huge directory of podcasts and blogs and demonstration videos where I'm literally showing you what the products do, how they function, and all of that. So take advantage of the articles, read about surveillance, counter surveillance, and all of that, and learn about such things as health and fitness. All these things are definitely worth looking into, and it's all free. So take advantage of it while it lasts. Now today's topic is before we get into that, let me see. We revamped the website, by the way, and the website looks gorgeous in my opinion. And we had a world-class developer redesign it and revamp it for mobile so that it's easy to use, easy to navigate, optimized for mobile, so it should come up very quickly and load fast using your favorite smart devices, and should be coming up prominently, hopefully, in Google and Bing and Yahoo and all of your favorite search engines as well. In addition to that, we do accept Bitcoin. We're phasing out, the use of credit cards. Fed up with the chargebacks, fed up with the disputes from the customers who basically want to run to their credit card companies and complain about each and every little transaction, and they want to use products. A lot of customers, because of the economy or whatever, they buy products solely with the intent of using them and playing with them and showing them to their neighbors and friends, and then they return the products after they get through playing with the products or whatever, showing them off, seeing how they work, scouring the internet for cheaper alternatives and all that. We heard all the games, we seen them all, so we know how you individuals work who do these types of things. There are some legitimate people, but for the most part, I spent the last 20 years learning about the various shenanigans that customers pull. So we're going to be using cash-like transactions from this point on, and I guess it only takes a few rotten apples to spoil the whole barrel. So anyway, we're going to be using Bitcoin. We're going to be using wire transfers, cashier's checks, money orders, and stuff like that for our transactions going forward. We want to save time and money versus enriching the pockets of MasterCard and Visa and American Express with the huge discount fees, statement fees, batch fees, service fees, hidden fees, you name it. They're all built in to that system, and that increases the cost of overhead for all of us merchants, even for customers. Customers don't realize it, maybe don't even understand it, but the overhead goes up, and we retailers and merchants, we have to charge more money for our products when the costs go up. So you don't save money, you spend more money, and just because you're getting a stupid reward from Chase or somebody, it doesn't mean that overall you're not spending more money. Because just so you guys will know, we merchants have to pay like $70 billion at least into the pockets of the major credit card issuers every year. And that money comes from somewhere. That money has to come from us building in to the way we operate, to our overhead. I mean, to our, that's overhead basically, okay? So costs do go up. Shipping goes up. Prices for products and services go up when we have to build that into our overhead. So anyway, everyone will be better off if we can use Bitcoin, for instance, and have everyday low prices. So that would make a difference. So anyway, we're going to move on and see if we can get into the article in terms of what we're going to be talking about today. And so, what is the title of this article? Let's see. The article is entitled Snapchat, Facebook, and Twitter's users slide and latest setback for social media. Again, Snapchat, Facebook, and Twitter's users slide and latest setback for social media. Now, what's happening here is we're going to focus particularly on Snapchat because I've covered Twitter and I've covered Facebook. I'll review it a little bit in a bit, but basically what's happening with Snapchat is, and see, Snapchat isn't unique in social media as far as the way they operate. All these guys do the same thing. Facebook and Twitter and even Google, they all do the same thing. They try and mix in the idea of you going to the internet and socializing, and they try to mix that in with business, with the idea that you maybe while you're socializing, you'll be interested in doing business. So what's happening is those guys want to monetize a social activity, and they do that by getting users, as many users as possible, to visit their platforms. And when they get tons and tons of users, guess what happens? They start to monetize that information. They monetize your information, addresses, phone numbers, your buying habits, your political views, whatever they can get, sexual preferences, whatever information they can glean from scouring the internet and putting together a profile on you to make available to their advertisers, that's viewed as money in the advertisers' pockets, because the more they know about you, the easier it is to sell to you, right? So anyway, Snapchat's users numbers have been declining, but again, that's alongside Facebook, alongside Twitter, and everybody else. What's happening is, just to put this in proper context before we go into the details, social media basically has been experiencing exponential growth in terms of the number of users who go to those social media sites. Okay, and it looks like everybody on the planet is going to Facebook and going to Twitter, and it looks like it's just one big giant party, and people are just basically minting money. If you're an investor on Facebook or one of these other guys, Twitter, whoever, it looks like you're just minting money, because basically they claim to be able to reach the entire planet, and if you have a business and you're advertising to those guys, it looks like that's where the action is, right? But lo and behold, we're finding out that because Facebook was audited, and the impetus or the catalyst was when Procter and Gamble, and I think Ford, actually start to question the effectiveness of the digital ads that they were paying for. So just to reiterate, what all started this decline in users and the second guessing, if you will, of the effectiveness of the advertising started with pretty much with Procter and Gamble. Far as I can remember, they started to take a look at the effectiveness of their own ad campaigns. And see, Procter and Gamble is one of the largest consumer products retailers on the planet, and they do the Huggies diapers. I mean, they do all of these consumer products that most people buy each and every day. If it's a consumer staple, and a popular one, it's a good chance that Procter & Gamble sells it, makes it and sells it. So anyway, Procter & Gamble was looking at the revenue generated from their ads on Facebook, particularly, and they found out that they were paying a lot of money and not getting a whole lot of bang for it. So they started to pull that advertising and compare it with offline and traditional advertising. And they found out that, lo and behold, they were getting more bang for their buck through TV and print and radio and cable, the traditional forms of advertising. So, again, keeping this and viewing it in the proper context, the word got out that there's some hanky-panky going on. So what happened was a third-party auditor started to take a look at Facebook, and they said, we cannot verify or substantiate how are you coming up with these numbers for clicks and likes and all of these things that you use as metrics to determine whether or not ads are legitimate or not. All the clicks, all of the impressions, all the likes, all the follows, it seemed to be very sketchy. So, lo and behold, after digging more and more, it was indeed confirmed that Facebook were using, are supposedly being taken advantage of by hackers who compromised their ad network, and they created fake ads, fake customers, fake websites, fake, you name it. Everything seems to have been contrived by people who just wanted to game Facebook's advertising network. Now, I don't know whether or not Facebook was actually colluding with these people because Facebook was obviously benefiting. When you advertise your product on Facebook, for instance, and Facebook tells you, yeah, you're getting a huge number of views, huge number of hits, tons of impressions. You pay a lot of money, right? You'll pay more money, thinking that someday this is going to pan out because Facebook is telling me I'm reaching all these people, right? But lo and behold, that fell apart. To make a long story short, the FTC stepped in, the DOJ stepped in, the SEC stepped in, because you got to let investors know when you have a material effect on the bottom line of your financials due to some issue. And the issue for Facebook was the advertising that was being placed on their network. The numbers were becoming huge, rated into the billions, if not tens of billions of dollars, in terms of the amount of money people were paying and not getting any value for it. So anyway, let's jump over to Snapchat. Snapchat is just another social media network, you guys, that's operating on the same principle. If we can employ enough hackers, enough people to make up users and pretend like we're getting all this growth, well, investors jump on board and everybody throws money at Snapchat. Everybody throws money at Facebook. Everybody throws money at Twitter. And because these corporations were able to borrow money so cheaply, the banks and such, everybody piled into the social media sector, and they hyped up the price of Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat and everybody else. So Mark Zuckerberg gets to spend $30 billion on WhatsApp, and Snapchat gets an offer for $30-40 billion by Facebook, and everybody is just throwing money around because it's all hyped up, right? And it's the only game in town. I mean, with the QE, allowing easy access to free printed up money, newly printed up, fresh printed up money, there was a lot of money slushing around, and a lot of it was in the tech sector. I always warn you guys about the tech sector, at least the social media part of it. It's one thing to sell a tangible product. I actually sell tangible products, and you can only game that so much. But when it comes to intangible products like users and views and clicks and all of that, it's not that difficult to make that up. There's a small company called Fiverr that a lot of people and a lot of you guys know for a while. If you pay very small amounts of money on Fiverr, you can generate tons and tons of likes and followers and all of that. It looks like you're very popular, when indeed you're just paying for some click farm company in India to make it look like you got lots of users and lots of followers. So again, when it comes to having a tangible product that people can look and hold and feel and touch, that's different. You can't fake that as much. It's very difficult. But when it comes to these intangible things, like what's happening with social media, you really got to be careful. So anyway, I've been predicting, unfortunately, a major adjustment in the tech sector in terms of there's going to be some major sell-offs in the social media part of it. Now, Apple sells a real product. Google is partnering with manufacturers that make a phone. Google has tangible products. Amazon has some tangible products. When customers transition from intangible to tangible, that adds a little bit more credibility because that's easier to audit and easier to verify. But, again, social media is different. So just be aware of the fact that what's happening with Snapchat is just indicative of what's happening in social media overall. Now, just to give you some numbers here, let's see. Facebook lost $120 billion of market value, or roughly a 20% decline in market cap, the value of its market cap, So that was a one-day record for any U.S. company, and that was Facebook. Okay. Now, Snapchat's numbers don't look very impressive. Snapchat said second quarter revenue rose 44% from the year ago period to 262.3 million, as its losses was 353 million or 27 cents a share, compared with a loss of 443 million or 36 cents a share a year ago. So again, they lost $443 million in one period. But that was, they made a slight improvement, and they only lost 353 million. So that's still major losses, right? Roughly 27 cents a share loss as compared to a whopping 36 cents a share. Okay. Analysts polled by FactSet on average expected the company to post a loss of 31 cents a share on about 250 million in revenue. So they're pulling in a lot of revenue. They're making a lot of sales, but they're not making any money. Is the problem. When you lose $453 million in one period, and you trim that down a little bit to, 353 million, that's still a lot of money going out the door. It's not going in your pocket. It's going out the door. So the losses are still very large. And see, again, the trend still looks very negative, mainly because when the auditors have been finding that a lot of the users on Twitter and Facebook are indeed made up, and Twitter has been purging 1 million users from their database over the last few months because they're all fake, and Facebook, with their controversy surrounding the fake news and the Russian trolls and all that, they've been also deleting a good deal of accounts. But see, these accounts were always fake. They were always made up. And you guys are going to find out a lot of these numbers going way back from the inception were made up, because that's what made Facebook look like they were the place to be. The hackers went into databases, found users, found people, made it look like these people were on Facebook and using it and all that. And then, the hackers came along. These could be Facebook people too. They could be Twitter employees too. They could be Snapchat employees. They're hackers. These companies hire hackers. And if you can make it look like you got all these people on your social media platform, well, guess what? Advertisers come along. They don't know any better. They pay a shitload of money, and you make a lot of money. Your stocks go up, and the pensions and the major investment brokerage companies, everybody piles in because everybody's happy because the numbers look like, this is where the action is, right? And again, with cheap money from QE expansion from our federal government and the central bankers around the world, everybody has a lot of money to throw into these social media stocks. So they were all hyped up. There was a lot of pump and dumping going on, and that's all it is. It's a major pump and dump scheme. Prince Al-Weed from Saudi Arabia just made a sizable contribution, or donation, I'm going to call it, into Snapchat to the tune of probably $250 million. And $250 million is what he put into Snapchat just lately, and he bought 2.3% of Snapchat shares, and this is just basically another pump and dump. Prince Al-Weed, along with some other Saudis, they got money to burn, and if they can pump this up and make it look like there's something to Snapchat, some reason to get involved, then guess what? Other investors are going to come running in, and Al-Weed and those guys are going to dump their shares on some unsuspecting idiot who didn't know any better, right? So that's what happens. hopefully you guys won't be the unsuspecting idiots. Again, donating money to Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat, hoping and praying that, something becomes of this social media sector. I think the game is pretty much over with because the federal government is cracking down. The SEC is looking into, the disclosure requirements that basically requires you as a public company to tell investors when there's material changes to your bottom line. That means if you find out you got tons and tons of users, tons and tons of false advertising things going on with your network and all the billions of dollars that you say you were making really wasn't the type of money that you said it was. As a social media site CEO, you got to be careful in terms of your disclosures, okay? If you find out that most of your ad network is contrived or made up, then you have to disclose that immediately. See, a lot of these guys, unfortunately, got away with that, but it's coming back to haunt them now. So anyway, I would be careful. So we're reading between the lines, and we're coming to the conclusion that Snapchat's spectacle, the glasses, is not going to make a difference. If you're taking pictures of your cats and your dogs and your babies and putting it on Snapchat using spectacle, that's not a remedy for their problem. They got a long-term problem. If you're using Facebook and they're charging you more money to what was Facebook doing? Let me see if I can find it. Facebook, for its part, last week announced details of a new plan to charge certain users of its popular WhatsApp messaging service. The company also has had discussions with a number of banks about partnerships in which the platform could offer services for bank customers such as fraudulers and showing users their checking account balances. Now, this is pretty stupid because Facebook paid tons of money for WhatsApp. That acquisition was one of the biggest, most stupid wastes of money imaginable. It could have been $30 billion, I think. WhatsApp is not making any money for Facebook, okay? Facebook bought, a lot of fucking users through WhatsApp, and they're supposed to make Facebook look like they're really popular, right? With the addition of all these new users. But a lot of these, again, were contrived and made up numbers. And WhatsApp is finally being pressured to make money for Facebook. And that acquisition is not actually accruing anything to the bottom line right now. And it's going to be hard to monetize, again, what's happening with WhatsApp. And this the partnerships with the banks, that's another exercise in futility, mainly because if you are a Citibank customer, Bank of America customer, Wells Fargo customer, and they give Facebook your transaction-related financial personal information, they're going to be putting you at a risk. They're basically going to be selling off some personal, confidential, very private information to Facebook just so that when you're on Facebook Messenger or something, you can see your checking account balance or something like that. In other words, the trade-off is definitely not worth it. So, as I told you guys before, go to your local bank that you deal with, call them, tell them or something, one way or the other, to not share that confidential information with Facebook because it will get hacked, it will get compromised, it will get abused. Cambridge Analytica, that scandal was basically the tip of the iceberg, okay? And so you should so don't get burned twice dealing with these idiots who don't respect our confidential and private information. Banks are getting desperate. I told you when I walk into the bank nowadays, I see more staff, more employees than I see customers. Millennials, for the most part, they like to use their apps. They like to use their smart devices. They're comfortable with that. Nobody cares about going into a bank, talking to a loan officer, talking to various people about the financial products offered in banks. You can go online. You can get access to all that information. The millennials and different people are using smart apps to accomplish all of that. without worrying so much about talking to some idiot behind a desk who has the power to say yes or no and all of that. So anyway, we're going to wrap up this session. I think I covered a number of key points that I can think of. I'm going to put the details of this article alongside the podcast, like I usually do, so you guys can see where I'm getting this information from, and hopefully glean something from this trend in terms of what's happening in the social media sector. So, as usual, I like to say at the conclusion of every podcast, keep your eyes and ears open and stay safe out there, okay? Anyway, we'll talk later. Thank you. Take care, and bye.